Mr. Preetesh Singh. He works with Nomura Research Institute, Consulting and Solutions, India Private Limited, as Manager Case. He has been conducting strategy and operational consulting assignments for global automotive OEMs, suppliers, R&D organizations, and governments. Specializing in case, Mr. Preetesh has over a decade experience in studying different themes related to electrical vehicles for Indian and global markets. He has been working around EV policy, EV roadmap, engineering and R&D, supply chain, battery value chain, battery reuse and recycling. Today, Mr. Preetesh will send his expertise submission on EV ecosystem update and status on supply chain development. So delegates, let's welcome Mr. Preetesh.
Today I'll speak on EV ecosystem update and the status of supply chain development in India. In the beginning, what I'm going to touch upon are three topics. So need for sustainable ecosystem, current market understanding of electrification in India, then also what is the current supply chain development status in India. I think everyone is well aware about the importance of the automotive sector in terms of the GDP contribution as well as the employment. And when there is a shift from the traditional to the alternate fuels, we have to kind of consider we protect both the employment as well as the economic contribution for India. So what alternate powertrain options we have? We have, in terms of electrification, we have hybrids, we have pure electrics, and now electric retrofitment is also coming up. Shifting towards electrification, I think there are three challenges which has to be addressed for India. What we call as energy security, import dependence, and carbon emissions. So first question is whether EVs can solve this problem or not. Yes, if domestic sources are there, local supply chain development is there, and we produce electricity from the renewable energy, significant amount of it. In terms of current status of electrification in India, if you look at the sales of last few years, it has been slow, but since last year, even in the pandemic time, sales was kind of okay. But if you look at the data for this year, 2020-21, in the beginning of 7 months only surpassed actually the last year's data. So now it's picking up, and the majority of the sales is coming from three-wheelers, which is on account of rapid proliferation of e-rickshaws because they are inexpensive and serves as a cheap option for last mile connectivity. Two-wheeler segment is also picking up, and eventually four-wheeler segment, which has limited products till now, is also kind of having good products with good quality, good range. So numbers are soaring in recent past few months. If we look at the future possibility, so by 2030, we see like 10% of the four-wheelers converting into pure electrification, 30% of two-wheelers, and 70% of the three-wheelers. There has been a lot of policy progress, starting from like the first policy which came in 2010, followed by National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, then FAME 1, then FAME 2. But one thing I want to point out is that despite limited budget in FAME 1 compared to FAME 2, budgets were not fully utilized. And INR 366 crore has to be shifted to FAME 2. And till now also FAME 2 utilization is not that high. That is why probably there was an extension of 2 years, and it might you might also see further extension of such scheme to utilize the budgets. One thing is very important, which is about the local supply chain development, right? So for that, India, for demand creation, we have FAME scheme. For local supply chain development, we have PMP scheme, wherein we are increasing the import duties so that we have local manufacturing of components, and then PLI scheme. And a very good news about PLI scheme is that now 130 gigawatt hour capacity has been bidded under PLI for ACC. So in terms of market creation through FAME, here is some data points about the current situation, wherein you can see the number of OEMs, traditional as well as non-traditional. Similar situation for three-wheelers. One new segment is emerging under three-wheeler is L5 segment. New product launches, good quality products under four-wheeler, and companies like Tata Motors, MG are doing good. In buses also, currently around 500 buses, but by 2030 you will see around 5,000 buses. So good potential there. In terms of local supply chain development, taxes are being increased. So currently, if you look at like very less utilization, but after PLI scheme success, or maybe in future, you will see very high level of localization. These are the companies which have already bidded, and I think a few of them are going to have the manufacturing plant in India, cell manufacturing. The moment we have cell manufacturing facility in India, we can claim actually very high level of localization, which is the ultimate objective of this scheme, or the electrification push. And electrification, pure electric vehicles are kind of getting even further advantage in the PLI scheme for auto components, wherein you get additional incentives. But one thing we have to keep in mind, that we need to think about generating value from each and every part of the supply chain. Otherwise, it may not be sustainable. So we need to think about reuse, and we need to think about the recycle of electric vehicles also. There are, different trends wherein prices are going up and down, but obviously there are challenges in future due to the limitations of the resources. So for reuse, which is very important, transmission, distribution, deferral, output smoothing of renewable energy, backup power for C&I segment is one of the areas which are low-hanging fruits for India. And in terms of recycling, it's a new opportunity. You can see oligopoly market structure, partnerships in recycling, and there are going to be several kind of strategic collaborations. So for companies operating in recycling, this is again a lucrative area. Here I rest with the initial thought and open to questions. Thank you very much.